Hi everyone. I decided to try this new medium of video, graduating to have not every day, but some days have video, make a movie, a video, even though I'm honestly very intimidated by this medium. Sort of feels like unmasking, coming out from the shadows. And I don't know how to edit. Bailey and I couldn't figure out how to edit movies, so it seems a lot more real to be like this. But to be perfectly honest, first of all, I think maybe some people would be happy to see my face. I know I'd be really happy to see a lot of yours. I miss a lot of you. But deeper than that, it is an unmasking for me personally, but I think that that's what we all need to do in today's day and age. Right now, this moment and this unique moment in history, we're all being forced to take off our masks, the masks we usually go through the world with. Purim, we just finished Purim. And this whole thing, right after Purim, we took off the masks. We took off our costumes, our masks, and now Hashem is saying to us, Kinderlach, I know this is going to be a tough test, but now you have to take off all the masks. We're about to go to Pesach to be redeemed, redeem the deepest part of who we are. We all have to take off the masks. you know, from the time we were born and we're thrown into the world, being thrown, like Heidegger talks about, being thrown into the world, we're forced to develop persona, different aspects of personality, what Hasidus calls garments of the soul, shields, defense mechanisms, ways that we could function in the world. From the time we're born, we're right away thrown into the world, and we have to know, we learn how to deal with the world and build up all sorts of masks and garments of the soul. And Hashem is now saying to the whole world in this unique moment in history, when on one hand we're all isolated from each other, but in the deepest parts of who we are, in our minds and our hearts, we're still together, right? We have this internet, we have these means. And right now what Hashem is saying to us is that the way to keep our bodies safe is to develop the inner parts of who we are. Take off the masks. Don't go out into the outside world. We're being forced to stay at home and be in touch with who we really are, which is really hard for a lot of people. It's hard for all of us. All of us go through difficult times. It's scary. Some people spend thousands of dollars in time, I'm talking from experience, in therapist office to work on realizing what their persona is, understanding, what the external aspects of who they are that they built because of circumstance, etc. And now all of a sudden Hashem is like, everyone, learn to be at home. Home with your loved ones, and even more difficult, home with yourself. We're all being forced to be at home with ourselves. So I decided to take off my mask and try to be honest and vulnerable as much as possible. We're all going through hard times and we all have difficult moments. Some people are suffering from fear. Some people are suffering from boredom. Some people are suffering from overcrowding in houses. Lots of issues that we're all going through. We all are. These are really hard times, and we're all going through a very large range of emotions these days. We have to learn how to deal with them and how to be at home in ourselves. In the capitalist society, and I will say, even though I'm far from a socialist, but the extremely corrupt, greedy capitalist society we live in, we've lost the art of being at home with ourselves. In the 60s, even before, in the 1800s, Nietzsche and Kierkegaard were already, and all the existentialists were screaming about modern society when human beings were turned into automatons, when they're turned into globalization as today. Back then it was the Industrial Revolution. But making humans into part of a system, like little working bees part of a system. Used to be that a person went outside to work to earn a living, and you made just as much money as you need so you could come home and be with your spouse and kids. That was life. Life was at home. You went to work to earn a couple of bucks. Today the house has become like a hotel, and we live outside the house. We've learned to live with this persona, and the scary thing is that the internet has made with the devices, that we're outside of ourselves even when we're with the devices, because we're always having to text and this and how they're going to read my text. And we have to come deeper into ourselves. That's what the avodah is of this days. We have to take off the masks. We have to come into ourselves and learn how to be at peace, shalom bayis, with our closest family, and shalom bayis within ourselves. I always say that the reason that Jews, we say shalom aleichem, even if you're just seeing one other Jew, you say shalom aleichem, peace unto you, but aleichem is in the plural. Shalom aleichem, not alecha, shalom aleichem, to you, even if you're talking to one person. Because what we're saying is all of the pieces of who we are, that there should be peace, to somehow make peace with those parts, the deepest parts of who we are. Because obviously there's a lot of negativity that we all carry inside of us, pain, fear, the childish emotions that we had, the emotions that we had since we were children. We're in that same body, and emotions are time travelers. Emotions don't mature. Emotions stay the same. So the fear that you might be feeling these days is the same fear that you were feeling when you were 3 or 6 or 12. And so they're all coming on there, because usually we're so good at numbing ourselves. Like Pink Floyd says, becoming comfortably numb with all the stuff going around all the time. Forget about the entertainment industry that makes millions of dollars. People went to war historically. People would go to war to not have to be with themselves. Anything but to be with myself. And here we're being forced. Hashem is like, that's it. This is what has to do now. This is what we have to do now. And we have to talk a little more about what that means to take off those masks. And just be. In the 60s, what I was going to say before, Rollo May and Eric Fromm talked a lot about I recommend those books, The Discovery of Being, The Art of Being from Eric Fromm, where they spoke about a loss of self. That in the 60s, that because of everything the world has become so fast-paced, we're not machines. And we've lost the ability to just sit with something. I was joking in the old days, in the 1800s, if you wanted to visit a friend, you sent a letter 2 weeks before, I'm going to call upon you in a few weeks, and we'll spend a couple hours together. That was like a visit from a friend. That was what you did for the day. A friend visited you and you walked around the gardens for 3 hours. And we're like, well, that's boring. Because we don't know how to just be with self. But now we have no choice. We have no choice. And I think more than that, listen, I'm not definitely one of those, crazy people that think because I have a beard I could predict the future and etc. But I don't need, for me, the Lubavitcher Rebbe said 27 years ago, Mashiach's about to come. Do I know if Mashiach's going to come this Pesach? No, nobody knows. Nobody knows. If anyone tells you they know, they're lying. But the Rebbe said already 27 years ago, we have to get ourselves ready for Mashiach. Mashiach's about to come any moment, and that means whatever happens, Pesach, before Pesach, tomorrow, today, we always have to be ready for Mashiach. That's a thing, always. And I really believe, I've been thinking about this for the past few days, it's like, I can't get it out of my head, that if we're to say what Mashiach is in one word, what is Mashiach? What are we waiting for? What's the redemption we're waiting for? Really, it's the redemption from Egypt too, and it's the redemption from Mashiach. The one word is Das. Mashiach is Mola Ha'aretz Deas Hashem. The world will be filled with Das, with the knowledge of God. Mitzrayim was V'yadatem Keni Hashem. Hashem said to Moshe by the burning bush, V'yadatem, you will have Das, that I am God. And Mashiach is Mola Ha'aretz Deas Hashem, Das, knowledge of God. And this, what knowledge is, we'll speak about over the next coming days more, because what Das means, Das isn't cognitive information. Chochmah and Bina, wisdom and understanding, is getting information, registering the information, internalizing the information. Das is consciousness. Das is consciousness and awareness. So to speak, if you could imagine like if an artist has a canvas that the painting is on, Das is the canvas. And that's from Das Da'atik, the highest level of Das, that's from Keter, that like surrounds the skull. That's Das Da'atik, all the way of Das that connects Chochmah, Keser to Chochmah and Bina, and then Das that connects the intellect to the emotions. and then das that brings the emotions into the body. Das is consciousness. It's what's called focusing. That's das. And Mashiach is realizing that your das and Hashem are connected. The 10 spheres, God's das, and even higher than that, is connected with your das. And the more that we could be at peace within ourselves and come to das, to focusing, to awareness, to consciousness, and we're going to speak about through meditation, that is redemption. And that's what we all need to be doing now. We all have no choice now. The only way to deal with the fear that we're going through these days, and the boredom and the anxiety and the animosity and the anger that's inevitably going to come up, even if you're with people that you love and you're with them all day and you're not used to it. We have to come to das, which means to be able to know how to come to the deepest part of who we are, to take off all masks and just be with God inside of ourselves. You know, this challenge means literally having to smash all idols. You know, from the dawn of the monotheistic revelation, with our great, 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 great grandfather Avram, our Heilige Tata Avram Avinu. He was by himself. By himself, he smashed all the idols and developed his own individual, subjective, deep, personal, inner relationship with God. And that's how Judaism, how the history of God's entering the world began with Avram, and we have to now continue with that and finish that. We have to smash all the idols. We have to smash all the idols. Hashem has smashed the idols of the world, of government, of science, of organized religion. All those, you see, an idol doesn't just mean paganism. An idol means anything that stops between you and God, anything that becomes an intermediary between you and God. It should just be you and God. There is nothing, really, there's only God. And each one of us has to have the das, the awareness, the consciousness of that in us, that God's light is what we are. That is our consciousness. God's light fills us, mimale, fills us, sovev, transcends and surrounds us, holds us. We are Hashem's light. That's what our being is. That's the energy that makes us up. That's the energy that makes up the coronavirus and ourselves and everything in the world. It is Hashem's light. We have to settle and rest in that. And anything that prevents you from coming to that is an idol, is a pesel. So it could be government, which we see now has whatever. Science, we're hoping science will be the instrument that Hashem, just like until now, science has been the vessel that Hashem has been using to heal a lot of the world in a lot of ways. But those that put their faith in science, that's an idol. Organized religion, all the houses of worship around the world are shut down. And that could also be an idol. Because if we rely on organized religion, is supposed to be the structure, the facade that facilitates a relationship with God. But if that structure and facade takes the place of an authentic inner relationship with God, that also becomes an idol. And so God has smashed all the idols, all of them, and forced us to be at home within ourselves and within God. I really believe in the deepest way of who I am. And who am I? I'm nothing. But what Chassidus says is that the only way we could find ourselves is without any idols. It's just through self and God. It's through God. We can't be in touch with the deeper calm part of who we are without God, because it's the same thing. So it's true. There are going to be some people that definitely should get therapy, need therapy these days. Be in touch with your therapist. And if you haven't had a therapist, reach out. People are going to need professional help. You know, my wife and I have spoken to our therapist. It's very important. It's a very difficult time. And that's why Hashem sent the vessel of psychologists and therapists, mental health. Don't take that lightly. Don't think that mental health is any less important than physical health. Maybe the opposite. And yes, of course, it's true. Mental health means to be happy and like many of the holy books say, and I've seen many people saying that to be besimcha, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe said all the time that simcha, of course that's true, we have to be happy and try what we can, but that doesn't mean not being scared also. There might be some fear within us, and that's okay also. It doesn't mean you can't be happy and scared at the same time. Take a look at the last line of Tanya chapter 34. It's okay to be scared, sad, and happy and feel serene in God at the same time. And we'll talk more about that also with this video series, which hopefully won't be too long because this pandemic will stop soon. But that's part of having harchavas hadas, expanding one's das and consciousness, being able to hold opposing emotions. Being able to hold opposing emotions, to have different things happening at the same time. That's okay. Being besimcha and having bitachon in Hashem is here. The fear is here. And having das means moyach shalt alalev, what's that the Tanya says in chapter 12, mindfulness, which is that the moach, the mind, is able to control the heart, which means to be aware what the heart is, and doesn't mean to repress. There's some people that are just going around, be simcha, 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 and not feeling their feelings at all, and that could also be really dangerous in many ways. Mindfulness doesn't mean repression. It means suppression, which means having an awareness of what's going on, but dealing with it, learning how to deal with it. Because the truth is that the only world that we could rectify right now is the world within ourselves. The world we're all being taken to task to work on now is the world within ourselves. We all have a world within ourselves, and that's what we need to be working on right now. That's das, that's getting ready for Mashiach, and we'll speak about that a lot more. I do want to say, I want to recommend, there are some really good meditation apps. You don't need me. There's plenty of resources online to learn how to do mindfulness meditation. Headspace is a great app to use. Calm.com, calm.com. Learn how to meditate. It's all men, women, and children. It's could be pikuach nefesh these days for some people. It's really important to know how to recognize one's emotions, hold them, but at the same time know how to transcend them. But again, you could have moments where you're feeling those emotions. We're human beings. We're going through a whole range of emotions. We have to learn how to deal with them. There's no magic thing that's going to make that we never have difficulties arise within us. But the avodah now is to fix our world, to fix the olam katan zeh ha'adam, the small world which is man. It's like Hashem is saying, my dear friend Jorian Schutz said, which is so true, the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave many mivtzoim, many mitzvahs to do with other people. We can't do any of them now. Who knows if there are going to be any communal seders? But what's fascinating to me is that the Lubavitcher Rebbe of our generation, the prince of our generation, he said very clearly that from Mashiach to come, it's up to all of us individually. He said that very clearly. The Rebbe said, Chavches Nissen, the famous talk, 20th Nissen, the Rebbe said, you can't wait for anyone else to do it for you. That could also be an idol and a mask. That doesn't mean you can't use resources. Of course, you should use resources, but it's all of each and every one of us for ourselves. If we try to wait and rely on anyone else, that's a mask, that's an idol. You can't have an intermediary between you and God. I'm so sorry that we have to be thrown into this like this, but the only way to go through these days successfully is the most important thing you will ever do in your life. Becoming at home with yourself, having das. We'll talk more, Mitzvah Shem, make more videos, but in the meantime, for homework, I recommend looking at Likutei Moharan from Reb Nachman of Breslov, the 15th Torah in Likutei Moharan, where he speaks about das and raising up fallen fear, etc. We'll talk more about it, Mitzvah Shem. Also, very important, I don't know if I'll make a video tomorrow before Shabbos, but I do want to say that it's very important to learn Torah texts, not just watching this video that year. Learn texts. The Torah is primarily the Oisius of Torah, the holy letters of the Torah, the letters of the... If you want to know the closest thing we have to what God looks like, it's the letters of the Torah. That's the form. That's the form he chose to manifest in. The Hebrew letters of the Torah. And the letters of the Torah are as infinite as Hashem is, the Svarim say. They're the essential pleasure God has from himself are the Hebrew letters in Torah, in the Siddur. The Lubavitch Rebbe said many times, the vessel for all blessings is chitas, to every day say the daily chumash, to learn the daily chumash with Rashi, like the parsha split up into 7, to learn every day that day's chumash with Rashi, to say Tehillim as it's split up to the days of the month, to learn Tanya every day as it's split up into the days of the year. These are things that are all available online. And the Rebbe also recommended learning Rambam every single day. If you can, 3 chapters a day, or 1 chapter a day, or say from mitzvahs. Again, all these things, gonChabad.org, it's all available online. But we have to be saying letters and words of Torah. And finally, this coming Shabbos is Shabbos Mevarchim Nisan. And there's a takana from the previous Lubavitch Rebbe to say the whole book of Tillim every Shabbos Mevarchim. And some people have never done that. And I want to recommend, this is, if any time, say the whole book of Tillim the Shabbos Mevarchim. If you can't, as much as you can, spend a couple of hours saying Tillim the Shabbos Mevarchim. We all need a bracha. Nisan Nigalu the Nisan Nigalu Nisan Asidin Ligal. We were redeemed in Nisan. We're going to be redeemed again in Nisan. Hopefully in Adar. Before that, we'll already have the Beis HaMikdash. But in the meantime, I just want to really say that we're all going through a hard time. But if we could rise to this challenge, this will be the most important growing experience we've all had in our life. And that challenge is learning about das, consciousness, awareness, coming to that part in you that's always calm, that is God. We'll learn Mitzvah Hashem more and more what that means, and Hashem should have mercy on all of us, and we'll see each other physically very, very soon.